So let me just do the formalities. So it's nice to meet you again, and to introduce to our online viewers, I'll read just a short introduction about yourself. Okay, just in case for viewers who don't know you this morning. Okay, Professor Suk Yong Kim, right, is the professor at UCLA of School of Theatre, Film and Television. And in her latest book, K-pop, Life, Fans, Idols, and Multimedia Performance, Professor investigates the rise of the K-pop or Hallyu movement in the rise of personal technology and social media, and basically to underline the concept of what it means to be live and alive. I guess later you'll describe in detail more into your slides this evening or this morning. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And to convey a little bit on digital consumerism. So let me take this opportunity again to welcome you to IDECS 2020. And we've got online viewers now. I think hopefully the numbers will be climbing. And we're expecting about a total for the whole IDECS about 4,000 viewers. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
So I would say, and before this, I've got to do the formalities and break the ice because, you know, I had to do this. So you know what this is?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't have the BTS one, but I've got the NCT one.
Yes.
Okay. So, 안녕하세요. And let's begin. Prof, over to you.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here and to share my presentation on K-pop and its rise through the digital media platforms. So as a way to get started, I would like to share a slide that I prepared. Can everyone see it? Could you please
Yep.
give me one? Okay, great. Yep. So this is a huge topic. The symbiotic relationship between K-pop and digital media can be fully unpacked probably through a whole semester of work. But today, due to limited time, I would like to stream my presentation by following the story of BTS, who is arguably the most successful and visible K-pop idols today. So in my presentation, I would like to focus and highlight three questions. The first one is, how did a small country like Korea emerge as a pop culture hub as we know it today? And how does K-pop industry use digital platforms to their advantage? And finally, how does K-pop shape youth economy, especially in terms of e-commerce, digital branding, and tourism? So as a way to delve into the first question, there are key cultural as well as infrastructural factors that really paved the way for digital consumer products such as K-pop to really emerge. And I find that Korea's internet growth has a role to play in paving the right infrastructure for digital content to rapidly circulate across the globe. Mm-hmm. And South Korea's government's effort to kind of emerge as internet power really started around 1998 during the time of then President Kim Dae-jung's initiative called Digital Korea. And I think this really resonated well with some of the Korean characteristics, what I call 빨리빨리 or hurry mentalities that some of you might have witnessed when you visit Korea, that a vast majority of Koreans really do not like to wait long for anything. So high-speed internet was highly welcomed and widely and rapidly embraced. And also, we should remember that South Korea was a key producer of mobile gadgets, such as MP3s and cell phones, which are widely used for digital music consumption. And cell phone manufacturers, such as Samsung and LG, are industry leaders. And I keep saying that K-pop is not just music. It is really digital multimedia content. And those, music videos and other digital content are often streamed on mobile gadgets. So these kind of industry factors played a role. And also, South Korea is a country with a high population density in urban areas. So it's really easier to build communication towers to enable fast internet than, for example, a country like US, where vast, size territory lies within rural areas. And finally, the free market competition that resulted in low cost for broadband services enabled South Koreans to enjoy high quality internet service for low price. So all of these factors really trickle down to paving the way for something like K-pop contents to rise in the 21st century. And we should also remember that K-pop's rise really coincides with the rise of globally popular digital platforms such as YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, so on and so forth. So for example, when YouTube was first introduced in 2005, the platform was initially inundated with amateur production quality content, such as, I don't know if anybody remembers the first ever video that was uploaded on YouTube, but it was this kind of amateur shot of titled "Me at the Zoo." One of the creators of YouTube went to the zoo and shot this, very amateurish shot, and that was the very first YouTube ever uploaded onto the platform. So when high production quality music videos that you can find in K-pop world made into YouTube platform, it was widely embraced and by the YouTube platform because the high production quality of K-pop music videos naturally attracted high number of viewers, which translated into high advertisement income revenue for the platform. So YouTube saw K-pop music videos and other high production quality music videos as blue chips on their platform. And this was a reciprocal love affair between K-pop industry and YouTube, because K-pop also had to reach out to global audience without necessarily touring live shows abroad, because K-pop idols usually have to constantly make media appearances, and being on a live tour trail would not allow them to achieve that. So YouTube was almost God-sent medium for them to reach out and show who they are to global audience. Right. But so just to illustrate where things are between digital platforms and K-pop industry in 2020, for example, BTS has 36.1 million subscribers on their YouTube channel. And their Twitter account has 28.4 million followers. And due to this incredibly active fan participation of BTS's kind of activity and sponsoring their activities, they were able to reach #1 on iTunes with their song Black Swan earlier this year. The song landed on #1 on iTunes chart in 103 countries. Right. And as a result of this like buzzing media, social media activities that takes place on YouTube, Twitter, and iTunes, BTS was able to release 4 #1 albums on Billboard faster than any group since the Beatles. So it is no wonder that BTS is often called the Beatles of the YouTube age. So kind of the moniker illustrates the symbiotic relationship between K-pop and digital media platforms. Now, in my view, what really makes K-pop successful is not just their presence in digital platforms, but what really propels their visibility and power on digital platforms is because K-pop is able to tell a very compelling stories to listeners, audience, and making them into fans. As a way to explain the power of the narrative, I would like to turn to Yale economist Robert Shiller's 2019 book titled Narrative Economics. And in this book, Robert Shiller explains the power of storytelling in propelling any successful economic ventures, and how storytelling and narratives can really impact people's economic planning. And he calls this economic narratives or contagious narratives. So the book is really promoting the kind of simultaneous studies of creative aspect of economic venture, and also the quantitative aspect of economic venture. And he gives a lot of highlight to the power of storytelling. In this book, Shiller introduces the concept of contagious narrative. And I'm introducing this to you because I think K-pop industry knows how to create and circulate contagious narratives so well. Shiller mentions that there are three aspects to creating contagious narrative. The first is give people a story they can retell. And this has a lot to do with the virality of contents on digital platforms. Second, include a visual image in your storytelling and value what your audience values. So I'd like to bring these kind of notions of contagious narratives back to the world of K-pop. As I said, K-pop is not just music, but is multimedia digital content that highlights visual power of storytelling. And in that sense, music videos are incredibly important. And concept photos, album, jacket designs are incredibly important because it tells a visual story. So when K-pop music is created, you don't really usually start with songwriting or choreography, but a production team gathers together to determine a key concept for their album or single song. So for example, Red Velvet will focus on, say, 1950s retro femininity, or Group EXO will highlight their extraterritorial status as the superhumans who has origins in the outer space. So they all start with the key concept, and then they strategize how to visualize the concept. And then comes songwriting, choreography, and fashion choices. So this key concept is deployed to really tell a powerful story that people can easily visualize and retell to others. So how does this play out in the case of BTS? What is a story that BTS is really telling? So here I have some still images from BTS's 2015 song, I Need You. And the visual kind of storyboard highlights the struggles of millennials living in this precarious world. And instead of highlighting these consumptive pleasures or, the ostentatious fashion statements that previous K-pop idols have flaunted in their music videos, BTS has taken a very different route of telling a truthful story of being a young subject in this volatile and precarious world. So they openly showcase the pains of existing in this world, the dark suicidal attempts, being thrown into chaos, but with the support of one another, with the support, the camaraderie of band members, and the strong relationship between the band and the fans, they learn how to exist, persevere, and thrive in this world. And I think that is the story that BTS is telling. And I think it's a story of mutual dependency among members and the band and their fans. So there's a theme of growing up together from this very marginal status to someone who has voice in this world. And that's why I think BTS is often dubbed as the voice of millennial reality. Of course, album jackets and music videos play a a very important role in coining these key concepts of their stories and highlighting the visual aspect of their storytelling. So right here, you're seeing the cover image of their 2016 album. And the Chinese characters, I'm going to read it in Korean pronunciation, 화양연화, roughly translated as the most beautiful moment in life. And you can see that these kind of image of youth thrown in this world, but standing there together, right? And kind of facing the winds of time is captured in a broader subtextual association that this title is creating. And what I mean by that is that the title of their album is directly taken from Hong Kong director Wong Kar-wai's 2001 film, 화양연화. English translation of this film is In the Mood for Love. And I think it was a very kind of clever choice to invoke this classical film that really had an impact on older generation, not only teenage or people in their 20s who happen to be the vast majority of BTS fans, but people like myself entering 50s can also relate to all the cultural memories that are brought by the choice of the album title. For those of you who have not seen these Wong Kar-wai's film, In the Mood for Love, it is about unrequited love between these two characters. The pain of love that cannot be realized, but the power of storytelling comes from the fact that youth and beauty cannot be contained. But for that precise reason, it has impact and power for us. And one can kind of relate to being young forever. And even expanding this cultural association, we can see that, Wong Kar-wai's other films, such as Days of Being Wild, is being invoked by this chain of memories. And many of you might recognize that this is Leslie Chung, another iconic actor, immensely popular across Asia, who died tragically when he was young. And this kind of uncontainable energy of being wild and being young is all being invoked by this album design and the title of the album in BTS. So this kind of impactful visual storytelling has a power to hop from one digital platform to another. So this harks back to Schiller's second principle of creating contagious narrative, which is include a visual image. And many K-pop music videos have this iconic gestures that fans can remember. And many of their music videos have kind of created this K-pop dance boom where fans actually do cover dance for each songs that they see, how choreography is composed through music videos. So this is BTS's 2016 song, Save Me. And this desperate gesture of young people struggling in this confusing world, as the title shows, Save Me, has been transposed into webtoon with the same title, Save Me. And this song was included in the album, The Most Beautiful Moment in Life. You can pretty much recognize the gestures from the choreography featured in the music video. And this webtoon has been successfully released in 7 countries, including US, China, Thailand, Japan. So you can see that the visual storytelling increases power of one digital content to hop from one media to the next media. In my view, the narratives that BTS tells to their fans is not only featured in the official, music videos or webtoons that are crafted by their management company, but I think the most powerful aspect of their digital storytelling comes from multiple BTS online channels such as Bangtan TV, which is their official channel on YouTube, and Bangtan Bomb, which is also streamed on Korean Naver platforms. And through these platforms, BTS is really showcasing their daily lives and their offstage personas. And they constantly communicate with their fans to really show who they are as real life kind of people. And I think this aspect of digital online communication with their fans is what really fueled their enormous popularity, because fans really love how the band is cherishing their own desire to get to know these people more intimately and around the clock. So I think this has a lot to do with Schiller's third principle of creating contagious narrative, which is to value what your audience values. So in my humble view, in the past, in pop music world, including Korean pop music world, idols used to occupy this higher position. They were put on this pedestal and worshipped by anonymous fans, but fans do not really feel like these idols are relatable or within their reach. They're these huge stars on stage and screen. Whereas in the current K-pop world, that relationship between idols and fans have become much more lateral one. And the influence flows both ways. Practically all K-pop entertainment companies know the power of fans as being able to make and break their idol's career. And idols know that as well. So it is impossible to address every single fan's letters or messaging, but K-pop idols and BTS in particular are masters of communicating in a very intimate and authentic way with their fans. So as a way to kind of illustrate that point, idols are not just these huge stardom to be worshipped by anonymous multitude of fans, but idols are actually kind of putting their eye level to see the eyes of the fans that they also adore. So what you see here is a scene from BTS Bomb, Bangtan Bomb, which is another digital platform that BTS uses to communicate with their fans on a daily basis. And here BTS members are, in their kind of casual daily clothes, and they are seen reacting to their own music videos. And this is a gesture to acknowledge how important it is for K-pop fans to not only watch their idols' music videos, but K-pop fans in general really love to share how they react to their idols' music videos. So this kind of, content where BTS stars are featured as reacting to their own music videos is really paying homage to the fan activity and also emulating what fans are doing and cherishing what fans cherish about their performance. So again, this is to highlight how to create a contagious narrative by valuing what your audience value. I'm moving on to the final segment of my presentation, which is how this impacts youth participatory culture and youth economy at large. In my view, I think millennials are the huge part of who make the current K-pop fandom. And there's also kind of noticeable trait in their kind of penchant for do-it-yourself economy. And what I mean by that is instead of, cherishing this mass-produced cookie cutter, factory-produced items, millennials really want to consume one and only unique items. One example of that is that in recent years, bookstores in the US have largely disappeared because, platforms such as Amazon have taken over sales of everything, including books. But in recent years, in some neighborhoods in New York City, in Brooklyn, a lot of these unique, one-of-a-kind bookstores are popping up. And I think this is kind of a symptom of, idiosyncratic do-it-yourself economy. People like to collect in their own way rather than ordering prearranged Amazon books online, for example. So I see that as a symptomatic sign of millennial youth economy. And I think K-pop fans, in a way, see themselves as not only passive consumers, but also producers of their idol-related products. And with that comes a very kind of vital fan e-commerce that emerges around K-pop world. And you can see a lot of that activity, generated e-commerce on digital platforms such as Etsy. For those of you who are not familiar with this digital platform, it's an e-commerce platform based in New York City. And, you know, initially it started to create this like really one-of-a-kind, handmade, homemade products, which attracted a lot of buyers because you cannot find anything like that elsewhere in mass-produced market. And, you know, you cannot just kind of brush this aside as amateurish activity, but Etsy is a growing economic force today. For example, the company has recently entered S&P 500, which is the influential index fund comprised of top 500 US companies being traded in public stock market. So this is a growing economic force. So recently, I had a chance to go to Etsy and type in BTS, and you can find over 43,000 fan-made BTS-related merchandise, right? And these are one and only items, often produced by fans, but sometimes you know, professional vendors get into this market because this fan-made products and e-commerce is a growing economic activity. So compare that with the left side, for example. On the left, you see the official merchandise of BTS, known as BT21. And here you see that BTS members are holding their own characters. These characters are actually inspired by individual members here. And what's interesting about the launching of this product line is that a lot of the sentiment around creating these official merchandise really emulated and benchmarked fan-made products that were already popular before BTS launched their official merchandise. What I mean by that is BTS's production company collaborated with each members and invited them to really draw sketches for their own characters and write memos about how these characters should look like, so on and so forth. So there's this kind of sentiment about handmade, intimate kind of products that are embedded in these characters. So I think it's very much resonating with this fan e-commerce. And of course, these characters have huge implications in broader economic activities such as tourism. So these characters, the official merchandise that are launched by BT21 have created actual physical spaces that K-pop fans can visit if they happen to be in Korea. So on the left, you see a flagship BTS merchandise store located in Itaewon at the center of Seoul, where many foreigners frequent. And what's interesting about this place, if you happen to visit, is that on the second floor, they have archive/museum where they exhibit all the sketches that were generated by BTS and the some idea notes to create this kind of intimate relationship with the characters as if it was like handmade products by the members. And on the right, you have this BTS themed cafe. I mean, see the whole facade. And this is located in Hongdae area in the western side of Seoul, which is known to be really popular, hip place for many young people. So the Korean government and the government branch, such as Korea Tourism Organization, are aware of the power of K-pop stars on boosting tourist visits. And South Korea is really not a prominent tourist destination. So the Korean government has been doing everything it can to really change that perception and reinvent the image of Korea as desirable places to visit. And K-pop, the popularity of K-pop has played a huge role. So here I am comparing two images, one from 2007, another from this year, to see what KTO, for example, is thinking as the most iconic image of Korea. On the left, you see this beautifully embroidered traditional Korean garment known as hanbok. This is the cover of hardcover, the print brochure of Korea Tourism Organization material. So back then, before K-pop was really a global phenomenon, KTO really saw the traditional image of Korea as something that they wanted to promote to potential visitors. Whereas in 2020, you have K-pop girl group ITZY, managed by JYP, as the official ambassadors of KTO promoting tourism to Korea. So you can see the shift from old Korea to the hip and popular K-pop idols that really kind of speak to young visitors. So much has changed in the past decade and so on. You can imagine that popular groups such as BTS will be really sought after ambassadors. And yes, the city government of Seoul has selected BTS to be the honorary ambassadors of Seoul tourism. And they have signed a 3-year contract to be the face of Seoul tourism. So as a part of this campaign, the city government of Seoul coined a slogan, I Seoul You, turning Seoul into a verb. And here you see BTS members chanting that slogan, and this kind of casual videos that they often circulate on Twitters go viral, and it's tweeted, retweeted millions of times. So it's a very impactful campaign to feature bands such as BTS to be an image, a face of the city of Seoul. So the city government has really conceptualized some elements of what they want to promote, such as delicious Seoul, relaxed Seoul, extreme Seoul, so on and so forth, highlighting the food culture of the city, the leisure culture of the city, and other activities. And each concept was made into a video featuring each member of BTS. And they have been viewed millions of times. So, relying on the popularity of K-pop stars and their prominence and visibility on digital platform have turned out to be a successful strategy. So if you compare the number of short-term tourists, the numbers here do not represent visitors. It's just short-term tourists coming to Korea with tourism in mind. And if you look at 2010, approximately 8.7 million tourists came to Korea. Whereas if you look at the numbers from last year, you can see that it has more than doubled. So in 2019, approximately 17.5 million people came to Korea. And a large number of them are, visitors motivated by their love of Korean pop culture, especially K-pop. So to give you an example of K-pop tourism, I'd like to share this image of 2017 BTS's album cover. And the album was titled You Never Walk Alone. The photo you see here features Jumunjin Beach, which is located in the province of Gangwon, in the city of Gangneung. And this particular site, Jumunjin Beach, was really not a tourist destination. It is a site to visit for domestic Korean visitors during summer, or city dwellers who want to get out and get some fresh air over the weekend. But it was never a tourist site for foreign visitors. But that was until 2017 when BTS featured the site. And some of their promotional photos featured the members sitting in that particular site. And one interesting fact is that this bus stop is a set, it's a prop constructed to shoot these images, and it was taken apart after the photo shooting was over. But then KTO learned that there is growing number of BTS tourists. BTS tourism is another kind of lecture topic that I can speak for over an hour, so it's for another occasion. But there, many foreign tourists come to Korea precisely to kind of follow the BTS trail, to visit their old entertainment building where they started their career as underdogs of the industry. And also there are restaurants that they ate while they were trainees, cafes that they visited, the sites where their music videos were shot, such as this one. And those sites are usually pretty ordinary, mundane sites, but just because BTS has been there, those places have turned into hotspots for foreign tourists. So KTO, Korea Tourism Organization, did a survey with the 22 fans of BTS, known as ARMY, and those 22,000 survey participants hailed from 137 countries. So it was a pretty broad spectrum of survey participants that we're talking about here in terms of where they live. And over 21% of the survey participants said that this site is the #1 site that they want to visit. So having learned that, the city of Gangneung reconstructed the bus stop at the nearby site where this original set was constructed, and it was one of the most Instagrammable sites for K-pop tourists. So much so that if you visit Korea Tourism Organization website today, you can see that bus stop being featured and the BTS doll figures are being featured because KTO has recently concluded another survey of identifying their promotional strategies. And KTO is going to select one participant and offer free tourist package to visit this site. And other 35 participants will receive these figure dolls as thank you note from KTO as a part of their participation. So you can see that all of these kind of digital circulation of music videos are actually trickling down to actual tourism and e-commerce. So these are all related ecosystems. So due to this kind of digital visibility and activities, I think K-pop has globalized itself tremendously. So in the past 10 years, a lot has happened. In 2011, South Korean music critic Shin Hyun-jun said that the investment money for producing K-pop digital content mostly came from Korea, and production talent, including idols, choreographers, designers, visual directors, songwriters, hailed from Korea, Europe, United States, and it was broadly consumed across Asia. Now, 10 years later, nearly 10 years later, the scope of the answer would have to expand tremendously to reflect the current reality of K-pop industry. So this year, at the present moment, the investment comes from Korea, Japan, and Europe, and the production talent hail from Korea, Europe, United States, and Japan. And K-pop is really circulated and consumed beyond Asia and beyond subcultural groups. But the conclusion of my lecture is that what's really important and what really matters at the end of the day is being able to tell compelling stories. And nothing is as powerful as telling a digital narrative that people can retell with the power of iconic images that they can relate to. So with that note, thank you very much for bearing with me, and I would love to entertain any questions you might have. Thank you. Doctor, you're muted.
Glitch. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
All right. So, as I said, that was a 30 minutes crash course for those who don't know about K-pop. But I think worldwide, even on our side of the world, most Sri Lankans, I think, has been to South Korea. Yeah, and there are some audiences here and big fans of many things and South Korea has been propelling. And I think certainly K-pop is a force, an economic force to be reckoned with. It is always had been, if previously has been underplayed, as you know, as you said earlier, that it's not just an entertainment industry; it's almost like a movement. So I think I've got some questions here, and I did some bit of research on South Korea. So South Korea, Prof, has a total population of 51.6 million people, and 82% of it, the population is urban. So would you say those economic factors are the ones that fueled further the growth of K-pop, particularly because it's among the youth, and being in the South Korea is very much densely an urban kind of a setup. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, on particularly on the context of youth economy?
Sure. Yes. Vast majority of population dwell in urban areas, as you have pointed out. And with that city life and cosmopolitan kind of lifestyle that city dwellers enjoy, there's a tremendous demand for something new, trendy, hip, and popular every day. And I think K-pop is an industry that kind of responded to that need for seeking trendy elements and digital kind of content. If you look at the kind of productivity of K-pop idols, it's just mind-boggling. I mean, they're just, the industry as a whole is just able to come up with new talent and new faces, meeting the demands of the fans, not only in Korea but in the around the world. And I think the factor of having such high density of urban dwellers has a lot to do with fast internet service. I mean, if you know, for those of you who visited Korea, most of them live in this kind of housing, apartment, condos, and you know, it's very easy to wire such high densely populated areas by, you know, constructing communication towers as opposed to rural areas. So people have really good quality internet service, and you know, a lot of Koreans take great pride in kind of proclaiming that they have the fastest internet, and when their ranking goes into second, they all get really upset and worked up. So high-speed internet is a kind of a source of national pride. And I think K-pop something like K-pop that thrives on digital virality can only exist when that infrastructure is established. So I can't imagine a group like BTS or other K-pop acts having a successful career before the age of internet. It was a completely different world, and the very foundation of their viral kind of circulation just did not exist. So I think going back to your question, the urban factor has a lot to do with the internet infrastructure that then in turn enabled digital content to emerge.
Okay. And my next question is, you mentioned earlier in your slide that K-pop was always from the onset a government initiative. So would you say now, many years later, would that be deemed as a policy success? Or from the angle whether K-pop was from a tourist concept or very much a hidden agenda of boosting human talent development, because, you know, Korea having a youthful population? Or the third one being, was it a very much because the South Koreans have this, as you mentioned, pali pali mindset, which complements that kind of policy? Your comment, please, Professor.
Yes. So first question about the government's relationship with K-pop industry. I mean, South Korean government have come to discover K-pop rather belatedly, and wanted to kind of really capitalize on the success of K-pop belatedly. As my slide of the promotional brochures of 2007, Korea Tourism Organization and 2020 have shown. From Korean government's perspective, I think it is a bit risky to promote national image on based on popularity of K-pop stars, because these are kind of transient pop cultural content that can change rapidly. So, but South Korea has not much choice but to acknowledge the incredible kind of visibility that K-pop stars enjoy. So they have rather come to discover the power of K-pop and have kind of deployed many campaigns to capitalize on the visibility of K-pop stars. So this kind of effort starts around 2011 under President Lee Myung-bak. I mean, he established a presidential committee to boost South Korea's soft power. So from then on, South Korean government has been very conscious about tapping into the power of popular culture. But this is when K-pop as an industry has already started to kind of approach global audience with previous generation of K-pop idols such as Big Bang or Super Junior. Yeah. In terms of the youth population in South Korea is a rapidly aging country. Its birth rate is one of the lowest among OECD countries. And many, sociologists, scholars worry that South Korea will be, lacking productive young population in the future. So in a way, it's kind of paradoxical to see that Korea is one of the most rapidly aging countries, and yet it is known as the producer and hub of this youth culture. So, it's a kind of interesting paradox that I sometimes have difficulty reconciling.
That's interesting from that perspective. Or is it because they all embrace this kind of as the pali pali kind of thinking, and thus that generation gap becomes obsolete? Or is it just because they want to be competitive and so forth? Do you think that helps as well, the mindset?
Pali pali mindset? Yes. I mean, the pali pali mindset has both sides. It is a sword. It's a double-edged sword. I mean, the pali pali mentality, hurry mentality has really just enabled South Korea's rapid economic growth and, expansion in since 1990s. At the same time, this kind of fast-moving mindset backfires at times, right? There's something lost in that process, in my view, which is this kind of sense of embeddedness and community, right? The most kind of human connection. And I think a lot of that is lost at the expense of rapid economic growth, fueled by pali pali mentality. And I think how K-pop fits into this story is that, so many young people nowadays, including my own children, spend much time in front of screen. And although they have many friends on social media, in reality, they might not have as many friends as I personally had when I was growing up without any digital media. So digital media, in a way, enables that lost social connections, that it fosters a different kind of sociality among youth who are spending increasing time in front of screen. So, like fandom as ARMY that we see in BTS, they really see themselves as the kind of kinship, they are like family. It's a very tightly knit structure, and they're so I think this loss of kind of human to human connection that was enabled by pali-pali mentality is finding its kind of remedy in digital sociality.
Yeah. I think what we covered for among this year's IDECS 2020 is that we're starting to embark on looking at multimedia industry as another platform for us to go boost up our digital economy. So I think I just have to ask on this, particularly on the note of multimedia industry, what makes it sustainable in a sense that is it just all relying on the skill sets, having enough data analysts, or is it more skewed towards having the art side, which is your forte, like the production crew? You see, you mentioned just now the concept of the narrative visualization, having choreographers, designers, and even going to digital consumerism. How big is the potential if Sarawak were to embark on this multimedia industry as what South Korea has done?
Yes. In my view, what sustains digital multimedia industry is participatory culture. And what I mean by that is, for example, going back to BTS's example, the reason why they have such huge following and participants in circulating their digital content is because they feel like they're invited to participate in creating the stories. The consumption of digital multimedia products are not just like created by production team and just passed down in kind of unilateral direction to the consumers, but they're designed to make fans feel like they are part of the agents who are creating the story. And I think if that inclusive mechanism can be realized, then I think it has huge potential. So what I mean by that is, this multimedia industry has also certain risk factors that, something more popular or something more powerful viral might come to overtake them. So what K-pop industry does, especially in terms of BTS, is that the kind of hidden subtle storytellings of building their alternative biographies that are not necessarily their real life biographies, but circulating this mysterious backstory so that fans can piece those little kind of, puzzled together, is also kind of enabling a sense of participation. And I think that's what that kind of serial narrative, that one is connected to the next one and to the next one as parts of a kind of puzzle, is what really sustains its longevity. So in order to do that, I think there has to be a compelling story. And what really appealed strongly in case of BTS is that they started as industry underdogs. I mean, they were not managed by one of the most popular, powerful management companies, and yet they were able to talk directly to their fandom. And I have yet to visit Sarawak, but when I was invited to give this talk, I had some internet tour during this COVID lockdown. It was very interesting. And there seems to be such great ecological beauty out there. And I think if a story could be told about that as a place to be discovered, where people have yet to really encounter its ecological potential, I think, yes, there's a kind of, I think.
So huge potential, certainly.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, I think on the, I don't know if some youths are channeling into this. What advice would you give, like, if they want to go into creative industry? Because as we know, the K-pop idols themselves, they're just not entertainers, but in fact, some of them have high IQ. I think one of the BTS member has a very high IQ, and they can speak in a lot of languages. Would that be a direction for the youth here to go into being multilingual?
I think that's a huge factor, but again, yes, that member RM is a incredibly smart guy. I think he will be professor someday. But the funny thing about K-pop is that once fans can relate to the story that you're telling, mostly through visual medium, gestural, bodily medium, they will learn your language. So one astonishing thing about K-pop is that many songs are not really performed in English or Chinese or Japanese. I mean, vast majority of K-pop songs are in Korean. And if they can relate to the visual story, they will learn Korean. So that's one of the factors of bringing young students to Korea to learn Korean language, because a lot of them want to understand the lyrics. So I think language is not the barrier in this digital storytelling. Actually, digital storytelling based on visual messages actually kind of transcend linguistic barriers, and I think that's why it's powerful. But yes, I mean, I think young people there have tremendous advantage of being bilingual. Koreans do not have that advantage in a way. We do have to learn English as foreign language, and these idols are taking many hours of foreign language lessons, Chinese, Japanese, English. Those are really key languages that they learn. A lot of them learn them. So I think, yes, being multilingual is a huge advantage. So you're steps ahead than Korean idols, but I think telling of powerful visual stories will actually make them learn your language.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's great advice. So I guess I'm not gonna probably one or two lines to rap. I mean, I do that with my daughter, and she said, "Mom, give it up." So, anyway, last but not least, I think it's been a pleasure to have you on board with us, Professor Kim, and it would have been lovely to have you to come to Sarawak. Well, it's a blessing as well in a way that maybe we are able to be watched by thousands throughout Sarawak this session this morning. So, Professor, thank you very much, Kamsamida. And I just got to do this because I can't resist it, because it's a K-pop slot and it wouldn't be one without it. It's a light stick. Unfortunately, I can't afford the BTS one, but it's an NCT one. So, okay. So, long live K-pop, Professor Kim.
Thank you.
And thank you very much again. Kamsamida. Thank you.
See you.
Bye. Okay. It's my doctor's lab. She said no, you cannot decide.